Today we are going to learn how to do the purl stitch. I have went ahead and done a few rows after our knitting stitch tutorial. Okay, I'm using the same yarn as I have been using in the previous tutorials of this series. So let's take a look at what we see on the back side. This section right here, where there's these ribs looking, that is our garter stitch. Then if you look above it from here to the needle, it looks a little different. That's because this is the purl side of this flat piece of fabric. Now, when I turn it over to the right side, you can really see the difference. This is the garter stitch, and then this is the stockinette, which is your knit stitch on this side. At the ends, I have two that are always knit on each side for this project. That will help keep it from curling. So it creates this garter stitch like down here, up the sides, and it'll help it to stay more straight and less curling. If you do not do that, it will have a tendency to curl unless you put a border on it. So let's get started. I'm going to turn my work over so that way my working yarn is facing my left hand. And I am a continental knitter. I'm going to slide my work down towards the tip of my needle to make it easier to work. If you need instructions on how I hold tension, in my Crocheting Basics 101 series, I talk about tension in the very first and second video. Okay, so let's get started. I will get the tension on my yarn. I will take my middle finger and place over the top of this strand of yarn just to kind of help control it. And I place my middle finger on the needle holding that very first stitch. Get it towards the end here. Holding the back side of that very first stitch. And like I said, the very first two stitches are knit. So just like we did in the last video. Okay. Now for the purl stitch, you will bring that strand of yarn, your working yarn, between your needles and to the front of your work. So on the same side as you are. In front of both needles. Then you're going to take your right needle and insert it into your next stitch. And you're going to insert it on top of the needle that is carrying your work. Okay? So you bring the yarn to the front, insert your needle into that loop on the front side and on top of the needle that is carrying your work. Okay? Then what you do is you bring that yarn around it and down. Then you pull that right needle back through that loop, bringing up a new stitch on your right needle. Just like that. Then you can pop that old stitch off your left needle. And we'll do it again. Your yarn stays in front. That needle will go into the stitch on your left needle on the front side here. Your right needle will be on top of your left needle. Then you will bring your working yarn around that needle and down, and then you will pull the tip of your right needle back through that stitch, bringing up a new stitch on your right needle. And then you just simply slide that old stitch off of your left needle. Just like that. Into the stitch, around the needle, and down. Pull up your new stitch, slip your old stitch off. Into the stitch, wrap your yarn around the needle, pull up your new stitch, and slide your old one off. I'm going to work to the end, moving my work along my needles as needed. Just like that. And we're going to work to the last 2 stitches on this side. Scoot that down, scoot that up. There we go. Like such. Okay, we're at our last 2 stitches. And to create that garter stitch, we're going to move our yarn to the back and do 2 knit stitches. Then you turn your work over. And you can see those stitches right at the needle look exactly the same as those below. Then on the reverse side, we do knit stitches all the way across. These first 2 and last 2 stitches will always be knitted for this series. Depending on the pattern, it could be several knit stitches to start. It could be no knit stitches to start. It all depends on what pattern you're working on. If you need help knowing how to do the knit stitch, I have a video that explains how to do the knit stitch. We'll do one more row of purling. Okay. Gonna knit those first 2 stitches. Okay. I'm gonna move my yarn to the front, insert my needle into the stitch with my right needle on top of my left needle. I'm then going to take that yarn around the needle and down and bring my right needle back through, pulling up a new stitch. Remove the old stitch off of the left needle. Go just a hair faster this time. Make sure and move your work up so that way it doesn't do a bunch of stretching as you're working. Just like such. In the purl stitch, you are working in that front leg. The front leg. Again, insert that right needle into the stitch on the front side with your right needle on top of your left needle. Wrap your yarn around and down. Pull your right needle back through the loop, pulling up a new stitch, slide your old stitch off. Insert your needle into the stitch, wrap your yarn, pull up a new loop. There's your stitch. Insert your needle, wrap your yarn, bring your needle back through, and pop that old stitch off. We're going to the last 2 stitches. Okay, we're at the last 2 stitches. I'm going to move my yarn to the back behind the needles. Then I'm going to knit these last 2 stitches. And that is it. That is all there is to learning how to purl. It's very, very simple. It's a very easy stitch. And just like most beginner knitters, purling always seems to be the most aggravating stitch to pick up and learn. But I have faith in you. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Okay, so until next time, be blessed and be a blessing, and we will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. And if you found this video helpful, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to click that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. Bye.